Alright, Diablo 4 players, let's go over a updated best builds for every single class in Season 10 after the most recent updates. There has been a few different changes. We're going to go from the bottom to the top. We're using the pit as our guideline here for this, and I want to go ahead and kind of highlight in this video kind of the playstyle as well as go over some of the gear that you will be needing for these builds. So for starters, we're going to be talking about the Barbarian. So the best Barbarian build is the Lunging Strike build. And I'll talk a little bit about, like, can I recommend the class as well as go again over a tier list in a moment, but I wanted to explain the playstyle because this could determine if you want to build into it. So first off, the Lunging Strike Barbarian is actually in the last place here. We're going to go from the bottom to the top. Again, the current highest is 122 in the pit. However, I do have to say there is a big warning. The class is not necessarily the tankiest, and there is also a big hurdle to jump over, and that is you have to have a piano playstyle, as in that you need to activate all of your skills, and as you can see, the class will feel very squishy, and that's just the nature of this variant of the build. It's just going to have to group up all of the enemies, just like a lot of builds in the pit pushing area, but the main concern that I have, if you guys do want to build into it, is that it heavily relies on you having to activate all of your skills. And so what it does is it uses the brand new Saber of Tascal, which is going to increase your damage, but you have to activate all of these other skills, which is a big hurdle to jump over. It is technically the worst build in terms of, like, comparing it to all the classes. It is the best Barbarian build, but it also is one of the harder builds to actually build up because you definitely want to have 2 mythics for this build. It also requires heavy amounts of the brand new chaos uniques, and they're not the easiest things to get, and you do need to get those GAs on the correct rolls, which is kind of a pain point. And again, since Barbarian is a class that you require to get more items, well, it just has to be a lot harder to build into because you need more pieces of gear. But for the most part, I didn't want to make this necessarily a build guide, but it's more so just basically going over like the overview. But I will also include the builds if you guys want to. It's going to be worldwide here, so some of them, they might be in another language, but I'm trying to give it to you guys as is here. But next up over here in the second to last place, there's actually a tie between the Rogue class as well as the Sorcerer, and they're clearing about 124 in here, and we're really looking at like the Ice Hydra and the Orphan Maker variant of the Rogue build, and I want to show you guys some of the gameplay if you guys do want to run it. So this build is going to be a build, I'm going to be real with you guys, it's probably not something I recommend as well. And the reason why I'm not going to recommend this for most players is it has a very clunky playstyle of waiting for a cooldown to end with the brand new Orphan Maker. And the way it works is you do need to kind of spam most of your skills to get a lot of bonuses. That's kind of normal on other builds. So there is kind of a piano playstyle. It also is, again, not the tankiest. And the reason why is you run one of the chaos powers that reduces your HP, and you rely heavily on barrier, so there are some moments where it can be a little bit scary when you go in because you have no HP before that barrier does proc, but the way it works that it becomes clunky is you need to basically maintain cycling between 2 of your basic skills. And the reason why is because it uses this item, and it normally runs as a 2-handed crossbow. It's called the Orphan Maker, and it recently got buffed, and this is why it's now competing with the Sorceress right now. But how it works is your basic and core skills that use this weapon, technically they're a pair of pants because it's a chaos unique, but they deal a huge amount of bonus damage, and then it got a bonus of the increased damage here. So it got a nice little buff here. That's why it's a little bit more popular and better now, and it's definitely overcome the Death Trap Rogue because of the buffs. But again, what happens is you now have a cooldown on your skill, which makes it again clunky, and why I can't really recommend the build for everyone. And the reason why is you need to heavily go into CDR, and obviously this is another build where it will require a lot of gear with the chaos uniques to roll in the correct area in terms of like the greater affix, because you really need those basic skills to ramp up. But then on top of this, yeah, the cooldown reduction is going to be something that you may want to go ahead and consider for the build. Otherwise, you run into situations where the build feels really bad. So it requires a lot of gear to go ahead and acquire in order for the build to play relatively smooth. Again, it's basically the Orphan Maker that got recent buffs. But first, a quick word from a sponsor, and this video is brought to you by Overgear. Overgear is a service where you can actually get personalized Diablo 4 coaching. So if you're playing Season 10 right now and you're like, I really want to build this crazy build, and you're not sure what you actually need to get it up and running, well, they're going to actually offer the ability to maybe optimize your farming strategies to get those brand new Chaos Uniques, or specifically figure out what's wrong with your build, getting that gaming knowledge to maybe get more DPS or more survivability. If you guys want to go ahead and check it out, there'll be a link in the pinned. Go ahead and use my link and save yourself some time and money with it. So next up, like I said, we have actually a tie with this one, which is going to be the Sorceress and the Rogue. They're basically tied for 124. So they're like neck and neck in terms of like which one is better. It's going to be a tie over here. And which Sorc build is going to be here? Well, it is going to be the Ice Hydra variant. So we don't have like an Ice Hydra skill, but you use the Ice Shards as a vessel with the Hail of Verglass to get a big ramp up in your damage, which can actually apply to all Sorc builds, but Ice Shards does not deal damage in the build. It facilitates, again, a vessel for a bonus in damage. But this is finally a build that I can recommend to most players, and the reason why is Hydra was a fan favorite before, and you can play Ball Lightning and play other builds as well, and it doesn't really require too much swapping. It basically is stacking as much core skills as possible, so you have a lot more options. This is why I'm going to be 100% recommending Sorc for a lot of players. Even if you're more of a casual, you don't care too much about the pit pushing, even though this one is the lower in terms of the scales, we're kind of meeting the halfway mark over here. But the reason why I would recommend this class is simply due to it being just so godly in the tanking department, as well as the gearing process for this is a lot smoother compared to, again, the Rogue, which needs heavily into CDR. Otherwise, the build feels clunky, where this, if you don't play the Serpentine aspect, you're going to be incredibly tanky, and you're just going to be able to dominate most of the forms of content, and the Sorc is just always going to be one of the fastest classes if you want to transition into like an infinite teleport variant. There's just a lot more that it offers, and again, the main reason why I'm recommending it is it's easier to gear, and then on top of that, you have incredible tankiness. It's just so OP with Mana Shield in Season 10. But as far as like the gear goes, in terms of like what you really need for the build, the main big DPS thing that you can get is Hail of Verglass, so you don't really even need the mythics to really get this build up and running, which is again another big advantage with this build. There is a Firebolt variant that you can play, it's just that it wasn't in the correct language here, so we're using this one over here, which is basically identical to just getting all of your bonuses with, again, Ice Shards, and this way it's in English for you guys. But for the most part, there isn't something that's like super hard to really obtain here in the build. All right, but next up, guys, we're moving in towards the top tier over here. The next one is in the upper half, which is the Necromancer, which has cleared a 126. So as far as the Necromancer goes, this is called the Shattered Spirit. So it is a basic skill build at the end of the day, but it does behave differently, where you basically are throwing out novas. So you're throwing out these big giant novas, and it all revolves around the basic skill, the Bone Splinters. There's a lot of like buffs over here to specifically, again, your basic skills being able to deal double damage. But how it works is your basic skills are empowered, and if you damage an enemy with a basic skill, it causes them to take more damage from your basic skills. And then so you get additional bursts on the initial target, where it says Bone Splinters also, oh, that's on Decompose, does the hemorrhage that burst. And then Bone Splinters will let you pierce through the enemy, so you're able to hit multiple targets with this, and then it fires them, and each subsequent time it hits an enemy, you get to gain essence. So like the essence cost isn't that big of a deal over here. As resources, well, you can run the Shroud of False Death to get extra resource gen over here. But as far as it goes, it's kind of like the normal thing that you would see on a lot of these different builds, where it uses Chaos Uniques. You also can run this wall over here, so you get extra to your bone skills, which again, you're going to get as many ranks as possible into Bone Splinters, which is part of the build. As far as it goes, this one doesn't have insane gear requirements. It's just that like there's a lot of basic skill builds, again, Lunging Strike, and then with the Rogue. So if you maybe already have the gear for this, you can look at playing this one over here. It's not like so far ahead of the other classes, but it will definitely be a little bit stronger than, let's say, the Sorc or the Rogue or Barb, just by a small amount. It's not like a big jump. We'll get into the big jumps very soon over here. So the big jumps are going to be in the next classes. So you can see the difference between a 126 and a 135, which is what we're going to talk about now, is the Druid. So the best Druid build is the Pulverized Splash Druid. And to give you guys some gameplay over here, to show you guys how it kind of works. And the Necromancer build is kind of a so-so recommendation, by the way. It does require you to group up the enemies, but like, this one over here, I would say, is a lot more beginner friendly because you only got one skill. And if you're wondering how the pull activates, it activates through the powers. But basically, you can just spam Pulverize. Now, you will activate a couple skills in the very beginning, but once you get the build up and running, there's not really too much snapshotting with this build, other than like you need to activate a couple things in the very beginning as human. And then a lot of the stuff is just kind of passives. But what you want to try to get is these overlapping poison puddles, and it has been getting a lot of buffs, and they have fixed some of the bugs, so it's a lot smoother now to play, and it's a very simple build. The downside with Druid compared to some of the other classes is, well, you don't really have that many skills to push. So if you like to push a lot of skills, it's kind of just a one button thing, but that's kind of a good thing, I would say. So this is a build that I could recommend if your goal is to try to get to like pit 100. It has a really easy gearing process because it starts hitting hard fast as soon as you get that one unique. And to kind of highlight that specific unique, it is one of the brand new ones, but you can get it in a different slot. So normally this is a two-headed mace, but now you can just run the Rapid Bear aspect over here. And what you can do is this makes it so if there's no puddle around you, Pulverize forms a puddle and it guarantees an overpower, so you get a massive amount of bonus damage, plus we're using the extra bonus to overpower with the Chaos unique power. Again, I'll link all of the builds here, but like this one, you know, it does have a Ring of the Starless Skies and Arrow Perdition, which you're going to want in a lot of builds, but I'm trying to tell you guys that you don't need a lot of gear for this build to start feeling immediately good. All right, but next up, guys, we have the #1 build over here in this season, and that is going to be the SpiritBorn. It is called the Rake SpiritBorn, and this one I'm going to admit, it's not the smoothest build to play if you don't like kind of paying attention, because you do need to evade through the targets. And then what you're going to do is spam Rake. I wouldn't say it's a heavy piano play style, but like it honestly covers a lot of the screen, but it does require you to sort of pay attention. And one thing I got to warn you guys with playing this is you got to go up and down with your mouse consistently, or if you're playing with controller, you just have to aim in that direction, again, back and forth. So it's not like a super clunky build like the Rogue feels really clunky until you get the premium gear, but it does have like a mechanic where if you don't like that playstyle, I'm going to say it's probably not going to be recommended. As far as the gearing process for the build, to kind of go ahead and show you guys what you're going to want, you definitely need to run the Rada Kipalike. This is a big thing to give you the extra resource, but a lot of builds over here, I would say, again, you're going to need a lot of these Chaos uniques, but this one doesn't seem super hard to gear up. And there we have it. But doing a wrap-up, quick little numerical check over here. So basically, the SpiritBorn and the Druid are absolutely dominating right now, where the Necromancer, Rogue, Sorc, and Barb, they're kind of within areas of each other. So to kind of give you guys a suggestion, this is what we're looking at in terms of a tier list. In terms of pit pushing, the Druid as well as the SpiritBorn are definitely ahead of the other classes, but they're not super far off. It's just that I'm going to consider this like S++. Like they are definitely way above the other classes. These ones, again, they're within just like a few pit tiers, but every single pit tier, as you get higher and higher, you need like 20x damage. It's actually 22% damage to be able to go to the next pit tier. So there is a pretty big discrepancy in terms of damage, but if you're just looking to do like T4 and you're kind of like more of a casual player, you don't care about the leaderboards, my newest update in terms of recommendations, specifically for a lot of audiences here, the Druid just hits really hard and it's really easy to gear up. The Sorc over here has a lot of variety in its builds. You can do so many different things with it, plus it's one of the fastest classes in the game. With SpiritBorn, Evade is pretty top tier in terms of speed, and it's one of the best ones for push. Rogue is simply too clunky. Necromancer, as far as it goes, I would say the Tornado Necromancer, if you're running that, it's really good, but it got nerfed. However, if you want to play the Bone Splinter like Nova variant of it, you can definitely log in and play that. But I just couldn't really give you guys a huge recommendation for the Barbarian. So there it is, guys. That is going to be the updated pit tier list for now. Who knows if things will change, but that's after the most recent update. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell if you guys want to see more content, and again, check the description for the links. Anyways, take care, Diablo gamers, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.